up, everybody? Welcome to the Altitude Show. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. This is Elevation Journal number 18, and it's about creating a vision for your life. I'll get into that. The Altitude Show is brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. I've been using them for about 8 months now, anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week. And my wife will attest. She finally told me I look the best that I ever have, which is a pretty big statement at 42 years old. I should have looked really good and felt really good in my 30s, felt kind of good. But I just wasn't, I just wasn't doing what I needed to for my body. And Mountain Tough, their program has changed my whole perspective on how good you can feel, but also how far you can push your body without being injured. It's not like that. I was always of the impression that workouts like this were really hard on your body, but it just hasn't turned out to be true. Like I said, I do this 3 to 5 times a week, and it is showing the benefits mentally and physically. Mountain Tough is out of Bozeman, Montana. I was actually part of their first focus group several years ago. It's all on an app. You don't have to, there's no physical locations. You just download the app off the App Store, and they give you programs depending on your level. They have levels for everything for you to do every day. They tell you exactly what to do. You can even watch the videos and do it with them. So there's that motivation, and it's always something fresh. You don't get bored. I couldn't recommend it enough. So get that Mountain Tough app. Use my code Altitude or code Dave to get 10% off the subscription. And there is also a free trial period as part of that. So code Altitude or code Dave in the Mountain Tough app. You can also go to mountaintough.com/Dave and just do it right there on your desktop. Get your subscription all sorted out. Couldn't recommend it enough, folks. We're only about a month out from hunting season, and even if you're not a hunter and you like spending time in the mountains, it's insanely helpful. Insanely helpful. All right. Peaks Equipment is also a company that as you know, I work very closely with, and we are changing the equipment space in the hunting industry. The products we've launched so far have been extremely successful, and the products we have coming next year are going to be insanely successful because they're awesome. I just got to test them in the backcountry of Montana. But right now for this season, so there's a couple products I wanted to talk about. One, the Solitude 4 teepee. If you're a backcountry hunter, or even if you're a truck camper, this teepee is extremely easy to set up. It takes up very little space, and it weighs next to nothing. But if you haven't used a teepee before, using a teepee is so much better than using a traditional tent in many ways. In my opinion, some of the main ways are, it just seems like there's more room. You can stand up in the middle of it. It's much easier to set up. It's extremely strong in the wind, especially with the system that we created where our trekking poles integrate into the top of it. So you should check that out. It's called the Solitude 4 teepee. You can use my code Altitude. The other product that every hunter, no matter what species you're hunting, or even if you're not a hunter, you're just spend time in the mountains, you should always have a good headlamp that's not going to get crushed if someone sits on it or you drop it. We have an extremely durable headlamp that also has a red light. It's 1,000 lumens, which is really bright. It's called our Backcountry Duo, and we are selling a ton of these things. In fact, you got to get them quick while we have them in stock. And you can use my code Altitude for 10% off at checkout on both those items or any items on the Peaks website. For the other items that you need in the hunting woods, the Go Hunt Shop is a place that you can get everything you need for really any part of your system. I spent a bunch of time on it the other day, filling a few gaps in my backcountry system. And they have all the best brands on their shop. Like, they don't carry any crap. So basically you can trust anything they have is going to be really good. It's tested by, the Go Hunt guys like Brady Miller and Trail Kreitzer and those guys. You should go to their shop, check it out. You can use my code Altitude. You'll get a significant discount, 20%, I believe. And it's well worth your time. But more importantly, on Go Hunt, if you become a member of Go Hunt, you will then have access to all of their research tools. They have a tool called, filtering 2.0, where you can like filter down to the specific unit in the states that you're hunting and find out more about the trophy quality, the hunting pressure, the herd quality. They spend a tremendous amount of time and effort getting all the data together for you to make your hunt planning a lot easier. And then when you incorporate the map program that they have, on the desktop version, they have something called historical imagery that they just launched here a few weeks ago. And you can basically look at multiple prior years of the area that you're looking at to see, for example, what it looks like in different seasons, how it may or may not have been affected by a burn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of reasons to look at historical imagery. You should go check that out. And that's at gohunt.com. They're the one-stop shop for the hunter. Use code altitude on anything, whether you're joining GoHunt or you're in their gear shop. Use code altitude for a discount. You won't regret it. Last but not least, Outdoor Class is the place where all of us should be becoming better hunters. It's like the master class for hunters. I saw they just launched they're getting ready to launch Mark Livesey's e-scouting course, which is going to be unbelievable. Mark has hacked the e-scouting world and just taken it to levels that I've never seen before. I've been through his class multiple times. It's incredibly deep, and it will help everybody become better at e-scouting, which is the way a lot of us scout now. But besides that, Randy Newberg has a new class on there for antelope hunting. Remy Warren has a couple different mule deer classes on there. There's all kinds of good stuff. Cooking. You need to go check it out. Outdoorclass.com. Use my code altitude for 20% off. All right. As you guys saw, or if you've been listening to the podcast, we've been doing an elk series. So far, we've had Corey Jacobson, Corey Ford, Jason Matzinger, Stephen Drake, Randy Newberg, Marcus Hockett. Next week, we have Bo Brooks, and a few more to come even after that. This podcast isn't only about hunting, although it's pretty heavy, but we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about everything. But I wanted to do this elk series because it's a huge passion in my life, and it's coming up pretty quick here, and it's fun to get excited and learn new things. You should go check out all of those episodes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Adding in Bo Brooks, there's 6 episodes so far just on elk hunting. And one of the things that I've noticed with all these guys is there's many ways to success in the world and in the elk woods. There's oftentimes a lot of parallels to the real world. Now, these guys all have their little things they do for the most part, like their main strategy. For example, Corey obviously is heavy calling, but he's perfectly willing to employ other strategies on the mountain to be successful. Bo Brooks, similar. Randy Newberg has his own strategies. Stephen has sort of his spot and stock ambush strategies. Jason uses whatever he can to be successful, but he can also call. Point being is, I believe, as I've said before, that if you want to be the most successful in life or in the woods, you should treat it more like they do in the mixed martial arts space, which is become proficient at the most effective strategies. And if you want to try to excel past that in one of those, that's fine. Meaning, like get to become an expert in one of those. That's great. If you have time to do that. But I would rather be pretty good at 3 or 4 different strategies than an expert in one and bad at the others, personally, because every situation in hunting and in life is different. And I would rather have more tools in my toolbox than not, so I can attack and problem solve based on what the situation is. And so what I've learned is, even though a lot of these guys have their main thing they do, they're pretty damn good at the other stuff too. And I think that's what you'll take from the podcast. They're all students, they're all gearheads, and they're all problem solvers. You will never hear these guys not being curious to other things, not constantly tweaking their gear, finding new ways to be more efficient, more effective, constantly finding their biggest problems and trying to solve them. And I think when you meet hunters or just people in life that think the way they do it is perfect and it doesn't need to be changed, that should be a red flag, because even the best in the world at anything are always trying to improve. So just something to watch out for. So you should go learn from all those guys on those episodes that we recorded. But the biggest thing that I've taken out of these conversations, that I knew this was going to come out, and I get a lot of questions about this, is these guys have all built a life around their passion, and they've they've done that in different ways and through different paths and different time frames, but all of them are making a living now, or not all of them, but most of them are making a living now through their passion, which happens to be hunting. And even if they're not making a living, like Corey Ford example, he has a full-time job, but he has a great side gig doing the Angry Spike stuff, and it's a passion project. It's something that he created. Him and Shannon created out of nowhere, and that's something that they get to enjoy. But they wouldn't have been able to do that if they didn't do certain things. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is sort of building that dream life, that vision, whatever you want to call it. And I get messages about this because I've been lucky to do this. I own my own companies. I work from home most days. I get to travel a lot. I get to hunt a lot. I get to do the things I love a lot. And a lot of times the questions I get are, how do you do that? I want to do that. Or, dude, do you even have a real job? Or, whatever. Some people are critical of it. Some people are curious and want to do it. It's especially come up when I've been interviewing people to help me and work for me. Especially young folks, where they go, I want to do what you do. But oftentimes they miss, when I dig in on that, they kind of miss one of the key elements, which is the middle part, which is what everybody seems to forget about, which is the part that's called work. So I'm not going to talk too much about the way I did it right now. I will do that in another episode. But what I want to talk about is a way that maybe, if you're interested in trying to craft a new life for yourself, or maybe you're young and you haven't really even started in your real path yet, I think this is the best way to do it. And it's something I waited to do until I was 37 years old, and I kind of regret that. But here it is. So I'm sure most of you have heard about a vision board or a life plan or whatever you might call it. But basically what this is it's, in my opinion, on one sheet of paper, a document that describes your long-term vision for your life in about, let's see, what is there? 7 dimensions or 8 dimensions. And what that does for you, I'll explain what it is in a second, but what that does for you is it gives you something to aim at. Oftentimes we want something new. We want to change our lives, and we just start doing random shit instead of just taking a moment and stopping, even if it might only take an hour or 20 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes to figure out exactly what we're aiming at. We would never shoot a gun or a bow just out in a blank space, not aiming at anything. We as humans need something to aim at. I think that's one of the satisfactions we get from shooting things like targets and stuff like that. Like the feeling you get when your arrow hits the target or a bullet hits that plate. You're aiming at something and you're hitting it. It's like satisfying, right? So oftentimes we're like, oh, I don't know. I just want a different life. I want to, do something. I don't know. What I'm doing is miserable, but we can't offer what we were trying to do. Therefore, we're going to fail because we're not actually pointing at anything. And even if you don't end up hitting where you're aiming, you're going to land somewhere better. So here's how you do that. And if you want to write this down, great. If not, great too. I mean, I would recommend it. But so the first thing you need to do is realize this is a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 6 month, 1 month plan. So you're going to do this for everything from 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, and 1 month. And the reason you do that is because, and you start at the 10-year, everything below the 10 years should get you to the 10-year. But for the sake of conversation, let's start with 10 years. What you're going to do is you're going to write on one sheet of paper something that you can post above your desk or wherever you work or where you're home by your bed, whatever. You can look at it every day. Your 10-year goal for the following dimensions: your home and family life, your love and relationships, your health and self-care, your career, your finances, your personal growth, and your recreation goals. You're going to describe in maybe a sentence or two or even bullet points in those 7 dimensions what your 10 years from now, what you want those things to look like on one sheet of paper. Your home and family life, your love and relationships, your health, your career, your finances, your personal growth, and your recreation goals. I can give you some examples of all those. So, home and family. Like, for example, where do you want to live? What would you like your family? If you're young, do you want a family? Do you want kids? If you have kids, where do you want them to go to school? It's stuff like that. Relationships, obviously. If you're young, you're not married yet, do you want to be married? Is that something you want? Or if you are married, is there ways that you can improve? Maybe in 10 years, you would like, you and your wife's relationship to be much better than it is right now. Or maybe you'd like to rekindle a bad relationship that's not going well. Whatever it is, what are those relationship goals? Health, physical and mental. Like, I would like to do a triathlon 10 years from now, or be in the best shape of my life 10 years from now, or lose this many pounds 10 years from now. Whatever the physical goal is, I'd like to have my anxiety on checked or under control 10 years from now. I don't want to be depressed anymore. I want to stop drinking. I want to eat better. There's many different paths you could take with the health one. Career, what is it? Like, what do you want your career? Do you want to be? I'd like to own my own company. I'd like to be a CEO. I would like to, work for the government. It doesn't really matter. What do you want? Finances. I would like to have $1 million in the bank. I would like to be out of debt. I would like to be making at least X amount a year. Now, most of us already kind of know this one because that tends to be where people put all their focus, which is part of the problem. Personal growth, like 10 years from now, what are the things you could be doing to make sure you just don't become stagnant? Maybe you want to learn the guitar, try jujitsu, try scuba diving. Maybe you want to skydive. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Something out of your box that makes sure that you're staying growing. Your recreational goals, like for me, they're hunting goals. And, there's hunting goals, music goals, jujitsu goals, stuff like that. But like, these are your kind of selfish goals, right? Like maybe for you, it's I want to kill a 400-inch bull, or I want to, win a jiu-jitsu tournament, or I want to whatever. Like with all of these for the 10-year mark, think outside your comfort zone. Try to give yourself something to stretch at. Even if you can't quite get there, I would recommend pushing yourself further than what you think you're capable of, because 10 years is a long time. Think 10 years ago what you were doing. Can you imagine if you would have done this? Do you think your life would be better? And the answer is 100% yes. So after you do the 10 years, do the same thing for 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, and 1 month. And all of those should like sort of waterfall down from those larger 10-year goals. And once you get to 1 month, these are like little baby steps you can take. Like, let's just say your 10-year goal was to be financially free. That's one of mine, by the way. What could I do today to be financially? Maybe it's pay $100 off a credit card. And if I did that once a month for the next 5 years, my credit card debts would be gone. I don't know. Everybody's different. But little baby steps that you can accomplish so you feel momentum towards those 10-year things can be big, 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 massive things that are hard to get to. So you got to have those little wins. Get this board done. Some people recommend creating or like printing out pictures that go along with some of these things. Maybe it's a picture of your dream house or your dream property, or you ripped after you've worked out for a couple of years. Whatever it is, having that visual to go along with the goals probably could help. Know that whatever you write down is going to evolve, and that's okay, because that's how all plans are. Plans are about as good as the paper they're written on, but they set you on a path to what will further be defined as you get down the road. You're going to have to be focused and have will and discipline, and you're going to have to sacrifice things. So, for example, if again, the financial one's easy to beat up on. If you want to be, a millionaire in 10 years, for example, maybe you should cut back on some of the frivolous things you're buying right now. Maybe you don't need a ski boat, or, you're going to have to sacrifice things in the short term to get to the 10-year, but that's part of the fun of it, because you know where you're going. In the back of your mind, you're like, you know what? I may not get that ski boat now, but in 10 years, I'll be able to easily buy that ski boat. Also, you got to have faith that the vision might not play out at 100%, but you have to have faith that it will at least take you to somewhere better than you would have been without it. The coolest thing about this is everybody can do it. Not everybody's going to look the same. No one should look the same. Not everybody's going to end up in similar places. That's fine, but everybody can do this. And the thing that I respect the most about Corey Jacobson, Randy Newberg, Bo Brooks, Jason Matzinger, these guys that I've been having on, and a lot of the guests that I've had on is that they've carved a life out of nothing. Nobody told them that they need to do what they're doing. They thought about it and did it. Many of us need to write it down. Now, I'm going to refresh my life plan vision board. I've done this before. I'm going to refresh it, and I'm actually going to share a lot of it on the show in the next couple weeks. Not all of it, because there's some personal things in there, but I will share a lot of it just so you can show I'm doing this too. I'm learning along the way with you. I'm not preaching, because I do think this changed my life when I was 37, and I think it'll change yours too. So give it a shot, guys, because man, a lot of life to live. So coming up on the podcast, Bo Brooks, Mark Livesey, hopefully I can get him. I just texted him this morning. I want to talk about e-scouting and his new outdoor class. I'm going to have Corey Ford and Shannon Mobbs on the podcast because they make up Angry Spike, and I just had Corey before, and there's going to be others. I hope you can check it out, and I hope you have a great week. We will talk to you next week.